Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Walking in Spirit and Truth. And this is John Craig. I'm your host today, and it's good to be back with you. We missed last week. We had things we had to take care of with the family and all of that. So, but here I am. I'm back again, and we're going to do our journey with Enoch. Yes. Can you believe that? We're still studying out Enoch, and we still have a bunch of chapters left. Not too many, not as many as we had that we've already gone through, though. So we're going to hit a couple chapters tonight and knock some of those things out. So it's going to be a good evening. It's going to be a good evening to have an adventure, because that's what we've been having, is an adventure in the book of Enoch. So what a good thing that is. I hope you've been enjoying it. I've been enjoying it. And why? Because it allows me to just, you know what? Because there's a lot of studying that I do. There's a lot of studying that Pastor Sandi does. And I say Pastor Sandi because Sandi and I pastor Life of Worship Ministries here in Amarillo, Texas. And needless to say is, we do a lot of studying, and we have to study new things out every single week. And we don't just get to carry like 2 or 3 messages for an entire year. We have to do new stuff, new content for everyone every week and multiple times a week. So I guess it's a blessing, because by studying these things out, I get a lot more out of things while studying that I'm able to communicate within the time slots that we have. But it's all good. And so hopefully, as we get into this study today, that maybe we're going to look at some things from another perspective in the book of Enoch that's going to be revelational to us. So, well, it's I think every chapter we do is revelational to me. So, and I just have fun because I'm just kind of going through it step by step. That's why I call it an adventure, because we're on an adventure and things unfold and things tie in to the things that we were raised with, things that is when we became believers, we were studying things out. And if we were, came up and we grew up in the church, and things that we learned there. And it's like, well, that's New Testament stuff. And then we go back to Enoch, and Enoch predates the flood. And of all these different things that are in Enoch, they're like, wow, we studied those things out in the New Testament, in the Brit Hadashah, and we didn't even know that it predated the flood. And you say, how does Enoch predate the flood? Because some people argue with that. And they say, wasn't it written during the Second Temple period? Kind of, after the Babylonian captivity and sometime during that time range. I personally believe it was written predating the flood, and then they transcribed it because the scrolls that they would write it on would deteriorate over time, and so they'd have to keep up with new copies. And that's why the copies they have date to around the Second Temple period. But that's just my perspective on it. But it makes sense to me, because some of these things here in Enoch, you could say this is Second Temple type thinking, the Second Temple type thinking that led to a particular party of the Jews that were looking for the Mashiach, looking for Yeshua the Messiah, knowing his exact date, when he would be born, when he would be on this earth, and even when he died. They had all of that in the Dead Sea Scrolls. They had things studied out and worked out to very specific dates and times and seasons. It wasn't just going to be like this some random showing of a particular person that seemed to have particular characteristics that they could say, well, this is a Mashiach or this is a Mashiach. I mean, I think Yeshua even said that over in Matthew 24. He said that there would be many Christs that would, that's the word out of the Greek, but many Messiahs, that would be the Greek, that would be in the Hebrew. Let's read that. Let's go over to Matthew 24 and just kind of get an idea of the perspective that another party of Judaism, which would have been the Pharisees, these are the ones that took over. These are the ones that ultimately are the ancestors of the modern day Orthodox Jews. And they said, and Yeshua said this in Matthew 24, verse 5, for many will come in my name saying, I am the Messiah, and will mislead many. and you will be hearing of wars and rumors of wars, etc. So who are these messiahs? And then he says this over in chapter 24 of Matthew, verse 23, which says, then if anyone says to you, behold, here is the Messiah, or there he is, do not believe him. For false messiahs and false prophets will arise and will show great signs and wonders so as to mislead, if possible, even the elect. Well, I will have to say that we were warned. And he said, behold, I've told you in advance. Yeshua said that. I told you in advance. Why? Because there's going to be many messiahs. And why? Because in modern Judaism, or which, from the Pharisees, they said that a man could be a messiah, and they've actually had particular people called out. In fact, I think there's one right now that they've said, this is the Messiah. Because why? Because he's because of certain characteristics that he has, and they were all kissing his hand or his ring or whatever it was on one specific Hillel calendar feast day, and they were all gathered around him, all the different rabbis and stuff, and giving him great honor and saying, this is the guy. Well, this guy's really smart, and he's got all these characteristics, and we think that he's the Messiah. And there was one rabbi that they thought was the Messiah, and he died. And he didn't bring about the great. He wasn't the great king that they were looking for, that would bring out the emancipation of the Jews, so to speak, to lead the Jewish nation into great victory over all the world, like King David did. And so here's all these false messiahs. They're not Messiah, because there's only one Messiah, and he already came. He came, and he's coming again. And that is what Matthew 24 is saying. He says, behold, I told you in advance. I told you it's going to happen. Well, this is kind of the philosophy of those that were of the party that had the library from the temple that was found in the Qumran, in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And so out of this, of course, we get the book of Enoch that gives us an amazing study, and all these other different writings. And there's been a lot of good. In fact, there's so many scrolls that were found not only there in Qumran, but over in this library that the Coptic Christians had in Egypt. And they sold this whole library of ancient Hebrew writings that had been stored for hundreds and thousands of years, and at least a couple thousand years. And they had these all stored up in this library, and they were sold to the British Museum. And all of these scrolls have been stored at, I believe, Cambridge University, and there's an abundance of them that have still yet to be translated. And I think it is a treasure trove, and they're going through those, and they're deciphering them and translating them, one scroll at a time. And it's kind of a slow process, and they limit the access to them. And then, of course, you got to handle them very carefully because of their age. And but they're slowly going through and then preserving. They're taking the pictures of it and all of that, so that they have all of the documentation. And wouldn't it be great to be able to read through those scrolls and find so many of these connections, so many different things that the Masoretic texts actually changed and deleted. That's how we know that there were changes. If you were listening with us on Shabbat, I was talking about Psalm 110 and how many different things were changed. They're not scribal errors, they're scribal changes, because of the party of the Pharisees, ultimately the Orthodox Jews, don't want specific indicators about the Messiah that would point people to Yeshua. So there you go. I mean, that's where we're at. And so this book of Enoch actually establishes things for us, and actually I think even solidifies so much of what we've already believed. So those of us that have been on this journey of to these our Hebraic foundations, understanding the background of our faith that led up to the time of Yeshua, the Messiah, and how those early believers, they didn't abandon those parts of the faith, but they weren't following the Pharisees or the Sadducees, but they were following biblical faith. And that expression especially with Yeshua coming as Messiah, just exploded and went worldwide. And that's where we are today. So Enoch is where we're at. And so first of all, I'm going to give a shout out to Mace. I see you on there, Mace. It's good to see you. Yahusha. There you go. And so I will tell you this, and that we're over in the book of Enoch. Chapter 91 is where we read through last time, but we had so little time. I just kind of read through it, but we didn't spend any time with it. Probably won't spend much time with it, but I don't want to just glance over it like we did last time. And so we're going to do that. First off, I'm going to tell you about Life of Worship. We're here in Amarillo, Texas. And if you ever have a chance to come in and stop by for our Shabbat services, we'd love to have you. And you can go to our Facebook site at Life of Worship Ministries, or Life of Worship Amarillo, and Life of Worship Ministries. I have to look that up. I forget. I go in there every week and I just forget the name. But anyway, you can go there. You can get our location where we're at, or you can just contact me directly, or you can go to our website and you can get our email, and or on our website it gives our address where we're meeting, and come and join us at noon Central Time, and where we do the Torah portion. And if you're out of town and you can't make it, and you want to join us, we have a great time, and it's at noon Central, about noon to about 2, so about that 2-hour range, and we do the Torah portion, and then we have a 1-hour break, come back at 3 p.m. Central Time, and where we have a time of praise, worship, ministries. It's our encounter service, and it's broken into 2 parts, and we do that for a couple of different reasons, but a praise and worship ministry time, and then we jump over to the second stream of our encounter service, and where we have a message to hopefully to inspire, encourage, dig into some things, and hopefully whatever we do is that it inspires you in your walk to draw closer to the Messiah, and to encourage you, especially in the days and hours that we're living in. So yeah, so many different things are happening. It's like, oh, but there's a lot of good things happening. There are a lot of good things happening. So, oh, by the way, I do want to say this. If you'd like to come to and support this ministry, we certainly appreciate your prayer support. And so if you, let me go ahead and put it on the screen here. Right here. Here's our website. It's www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. And if you'd like to be a partner with us, we'd love for you to have it. Be a financial partner. You can donate button and click on there. That'll give you you can participate financially. If you prefer to not do things by credit card or debit card or anything like that, you can look up our mailing address and you can mail in a love gift. We'd certainly appreciate that as well. But we are looking for financial partners, and for those that can help support our ministry. But not only that, just to be a support to us, also to be a prayer team that lifts up this ministry. And we would love for you to be part of that as well. So anyway, hey, it's good to see you, Tammy, jumping in here with us. And I'm glad that you're here as well. We need to get the word out and get more people to join us as well, because we missed last week. And so I guess people are like, and then we missed Let Us Reason and the War Room on Monday because we're taking care of family issues. And so and they're like, well, maybe Pastor John's not going to be there this evening. Well, I'm here. So get the word out. Let everybody know that we have a live show going on today. And because we're going to jump in now. This is going to be Enoch, chapter 91. And so let's see where this is going to take us today. And so let's start out by reading chapter 91. When I think of chapter 91, one of the things my mind always goes to, because there's not a lot of book. I don't think there's but one book in the entire Bible that has 91 chapters, right? I think that's true. 91 chapters, more than 91 chapters, the book of Psalms. And so I think about Psalm 91. And is there anything that's similar? I don't think so. But let's go on. Psalm 91, or Enoch 91. Now that's in my head. Verse 1. That which was written by Enoch, he wrote all this instruction of wisdom for every man of dignity and every judge of the earth, for all my children who dwell upon the earth, and for subsequent generations, conducting themselves uprightly and peaceably. See, I like that start out the way it starts because that it was written by Enoch, and so this book of Enoch, he said it's to give us wisdom, and it's to give wisdom to every. I like how he says every man of dignity. Now, of course, that's generic man, but every man of dignity, every judge of the earth. Well, weren't we told that that we are supposed to be discern spirits, discern and judge, right? To be able to discern between right and wrong. I mean, that's what a judge does. And so every judge of the earth, but take it all the way up to the black robes. Like, we need some black robes that would actually be righteous black robes, as opposed to the ones that are showing their ugly faces in a particular capital that has DC in it. But nevertheless, I digress. Let's go on here. It says, for all my children who shall dwell upon the earth. And so Enoch's thinking, I got kids. And so I think it's specifically talking about his first generation descendants. And it says, and for subsequent generations, conducting themselves uprightly and peaceably. So this is where we come in, because are we conducting ourselves uprightly? Do we choose to live peaceably? And I think I would think so, yes, because so I would have to say he wrote this for us. And so that's what he's telling us. I've got some wisdom, some instruction of wisdom. And if you fit any of those categories, this is for you. And we've been reading 90 other chapters that we say, yeah, I believe that's true, is for us. And going on, it says, let not your ruach, let not your spirit be grieved on account of the times. For the holy, the great one, has prescribed a period to all. And we're going to find out about these periods in chapter 92. So these times, these different segments of time that we have. And so, let not your spirit be grieved on account of the times, for the holy, and a different thing. Aren't there things that have been going on in our lifetime that we would have to say are grievous? Do you ever look at the political situation, the cultural situation, all of the grief that's out there, and you're like, oh, can't we just get out of this time and move on to the next? I mean, can't we have just a little bit of joy? Yeah, no, seriously. But he says, don't let your spirit be grieved on account of the times. And for the holy, who's that? The Most High, the Great One, has prescribed a period to all. Let the righteous man arise from slumber. Arise from slumber. Okay, I think that's really significant as well, because I think Ephesians talks about the one who is slumbering. It's not that I think it does, but I'm quite sure. And so if you'll go with me to, go to Ephesians chapter 5. Because it almost makes me wonder when Paul's writing this, if he's thinking about Enoch, because he says, let the righteous man arise from slumber. Let him arise and proceed in the path of righteousness, in all its paths. And let him advance in goodness and eternal clemency. Eternal clemency. I like that word. Yeah, I like that word a lot. Clemency. Like when a governor just gives clemency to somebody that's been charged, they're a felon, the law is after them, and there's a deal that's made, and the governor says clemency for so-and-so. And when that, so that, I think I love that a lot, where in goodness, in eternal clemency, the fact that we would say, okay, oh, great one, as Enoch calls him right here. Enoch says, oh, the great one, the holy, getting clemency because of the blood of Messiah. That's just very palatable to me. I think that's really cool. But I'm going back, let alone it does, talking about arising from slumber. So if you're over there with me over in Ephesians chapter 5, and where it says, for this reason, it says, Awake, sleeper, and rise from the dead, and Messiah will shine on you. Therefore, be careful how you walk, not as unwise men, but as wise, making the most of your time, because the days are evil. Oh, honestly, I just think that Paul is like giving a little commentary of what he just says here in Enoch chapter 91, where he says, let the righteous man arise from slumber, let him arise and proceed in the path of righteousness in all its paths, and let him advance in goodness and eternal clemency. And it's not only just like advancing, like we're walking forward in the paths of life and in the paths of righteousness, which is like the walking up the Torah cycle, which one would say is the sages say that those are the paths of righteousness, because every week it's supposed to spur us in our integrity, in our character, in as we walk this thing out. And then it says, so I think there's this correlation that's talked about, where we're told to arise from the dead and Messiah will shine on you, and then to be careful how we walk. Right? How do we walk? Not as unwise men. And he starts out, he says in this chapter where he says this, he wrote all this instruction of wisdom for every man of dignity and every judge of the earth, and et cetera, et cetera. And so, in other words, don't walk as the unwise men of the earth that have no dignity. So anyway, I love the parallel that goes with that. If you want to write in your margin, you could actually write there in your margin, if you're looking at the book of Enoch with me, and put Ephesians, because I'm going to do that because I like my little cross references. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 14, 15, and 16. 14 through 16. And more. And I just did. Okay. I like to write in my margins. I like having cross references. And this version doesn't have those little, like down, like, okay, I'll show you you can see this. There we go. If you can see it right down there you can't even see it. Oh, it lost it. Oh, there it is in the middle of my page, in the midst of all the blur. Yeah. In the middle of my page is a bunch of just, connections, references of where that verse, those ideas are in other parts of scripture. So you can tie things together and look at things from different perspectives. And I like that. I like it a lot. So I like those cheats in the Bible. And so this version doesn't have it. So I have to write my own cheats, but that's okay, because those are the things that make it important. By the way, I want to give a shout out to Linda and Lou. It's good to have you with us today. And from the great state of Utah, your temporary homestead. Oh, you traveling warriors, you. Okay, moving right along. And but I also like this advance in good. Let him advance in goodness. And I think the advance in good, what do you think of? Yeah, the white pages trick the background because they are so close together. It's the invisible Bible. We should have that invisible Bible written on our hearts, shouldn't we? No, but I was thinking about this advance in goodness. Like, are you just, walking in the path of righteousness? And so we're advancing one step at a time. But I think advance in goodness, like we're graduating from one level to the next level. And I think that this idea of advancing in goodness means, when we're faced with these different challenges, when different things grieve us or they challenge us, it causes us to stretch our faith. We're trying to figure out what to do and how to work this thing out. And we don't know. And we think we had the answers going into this thing. And then we're face to face with a reality of everything we planned for. If we did face a situation and it just doesn't seem to work out based on the knowledge that we already have. And you're like, what do I do? Well, and then we work through it. And we advance. And when we've worked through it and we've completed, we graduate and we get to move on. And I just think that's how we advance in goodness. So let him advance in goodness and eternal clemency. And the fact that eternal clemency, I would say eternity begins when we're at conception. No, 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 because eternity begins with Yahweh, right? With the Most High. But I mean, I get that. But I'm thinking as an individual person that's advancing through these different stages, I think it begins when Yah says, I knew you before you were in your mother's womb. Now. So time begins at conception. Thank you, Tammy. That's a good way to say it. And then, so our eternity begins when the Father knows us before we're in our mother's womb, whenever that is. I've had some different thoughts I've kind of thrown out there in terms of like, are we known of Yah because he knows when we're going to be conceived? So he knows us because of advanced knowledge of us, because he's Yah and he knows the end from the beginning. Maybe. Or is it because we may have had some type of form before this whole connection between the egg and the sperm creates the conception of life and the spark happens, but it's when our soul is put into that zygote, into that first formation of a human. I don't know. It makes me ponder things that are outside of my knowledge. And I want to ask someday. I really want to know. And maybe it's just that boom, the whole spark of life and the soul happens at the point of the connection between the two parts. And I'm like, oh, is that when it happens? All of a sudden, this idea that Yah has is suddenly formed and now begins to grow in the mother's womb and then protected in that safe place. And then upon, delivery and growing up and all that, I mean, and you see the character of the child, even at a very, very young age, the infant is already displaying certain characteristics, personality begins to bloom and express. And I just wonder, did that happen at the spark? Or did it happen because he knew us before that conception? I don't know. Tell me what you think. It's so mind-bending for me. Okay. But nevertheless, we advance in goodness and eternal clemency, because at some point, it's not only that, and yet we must make this independent choice in our life to follow Yeshua. And okay, that's Tammy, that's a way to say that's when our soul steps out of eternity and into this realm. Oh, it's so mind-bending. That is something to ponder on. It makes me want to have more folds and wrinkles in my cerebral cortex that maybe could comprehend it a little bit better. But maybe sometimes those things aren't to be comprehended in this natural material world and in this limitation of a human body, that it can only absorb these things because it's spirit. It's the truth of the spirit that doesn't make sense to the flesh. It doesn't make sense to the limitations of the brain, whether, no matter what level of IQ one has. I think some of the smartest dumb people in the world are geniuses, because a lot of times in their genius attitude, they completely erase the idea of the realm of the spiritual and our responsibility and accountability to the Most High and all of that. So like when Moses went into the cloud, he stepped out of this realm and into eternity when he entered the cloud. Yeah, and can we get out of this realm and into his? Yeah, I know. I know, that's seriously. I mean, we were talking about that in the Torah portion, when Moses went up the mountain for 40 days, 40 nights, and then he went back up there because it was, I mean, what realm did he step into? What, I mean, how in the world does a body get sustained for that long a time without eating? 80 days and 80 nights. Whew. Yeah. One break, and I don't think he ate when he went down with the cold and gaff. Just saying. All right, so mercy shall be showed to the righteous man. Upon him shall be confirmed integrity and power forever. In goodness and in righteousness shall he exist, and shall walk in everlasting light. I mean, it thinks about that. Think about this. I mean, they've documented this. When the sperm connects with the egg, right there in that biological point of connection, that they have captured the spark of life. Literally, you can look it up on YouTube. And so and shall walk in everlasting light. Is that the light of eternity that is suddenly brought in, but then suddenly snuffed out because of what happened in the garden? Like when Adam and Mrs. Adam found themselves declothed, having lost their light, had to have skin put on them. So, I don't know. In goodness and righteousness shall he exist, and shall walk in everlasting light. But it's when we come and our heart is converted, and we come to Messiah, come to Yeshua Messiah, and we've confessed our sins, and we've placed him in that proper order, that proper place as the Most High, as the King, as the Master, as the Lord of our lives. And then the light reconnects. It's one of the things that I always say, like when you look at children, and children are so innocent, and there's light in their eyes. And that light, I mean, I look at my granddaughters, and like Alora right now, I can walk into the room and her face lights up and her eyes get big and she gets a big old smile. And now she's at that point, she's waving at me. And I'm thinking, that's just so much light. Look at the light. I love that little light, that spark of light that's in her. And yet there's a certain point in time that an individual decision, either to keep that light or to walk into the light, takes place, and something really happens. So, but it says, but sin shall perish in eternal darkness, nor shall be seen from that time forward forevermore. So this walk, I think, is really significant. But I think I read this. I'm sure I've read this before. Pastor Sandy's done a great expose on the first chapter of Psalm in one of our prior editions of Walking in Spirit of Truth, and where that's how it says, how blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scoffers, but his delight is in the Torah of Yahweh, and his Torah, and in his Torah he meditates day and night, and he will be like a tree planted by the streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and its leaf does not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. The wicked are not so, but they're like chaff, which the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For Yahweh knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. And that is what Enoch just says, because but sin shall perish in eternal darkness, nor be seen from that time forward forevermore. And there's that connection of judgment, and the connection of one who continues to sin is like one who walks in darkness. And so we're done with chapter 91. We're going to have to move forward. Okay. Set that back up there. And we're going to jump over to chapter 92. We're moving forward in this adventure. After this, verse 1 of chapter 92, after this, Enoch, began to speak from a sefer. He's speaking from a sefer. He's reading from a book. A book has been opened up. It is a book that he wrote. And it says in verse 2, and Hanok said, concerning the children of righteousness, concerning the elect of the world, and concerning the plant of righteousness and integrity, these things will I speak of, and I will explain to you, my children. I am Hanok. Well, there was quite an identification there. I am Hanok. I am Enoch. I am Batman. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not. No, I just remember that one line in the movie. It's been, it went viral. Okay. I am Hanok. I am Hanok. I am Enoch. In consequence of that which has been shown to me from my heavenly vision and from the voice of the watchers and the holy ones have I acquired knowledge, and from the tablet of heaven have I acquired understanding. Okay, stop right there. We got to break that thing down. He says, wait a minute. He's reading from this book. This is a book where he recorded everything. Now, Sefer, the scrolls, this book, like what I'm reading from is the Sefer edition of the scriptures, we'll just call it that. And he says, in consequence of that which has been shown to me from the heavenly vision. So we have gone through a whole bunch of heavenly visions, which Hanok wrote down. Because then we go through that, what was it, chapter 88, which was like super, super long. And even chapter 89, which he was talking about what he observed and what happened before he married Methuselah's mother, Edith, right? Remember, we're all talking about that. And he sat down and he's given all of this information to Methuselah. And now he's coming back around. He says it now, it's recorded in a book. These things I speak, I will explain to you, my children. I am Hanok in consequence of that which has been shown to me from my heavenly vision. So I'm going to have to let's step back. Let's use maybe some modern terminology we would use. Heavenly vision, could that be like divine revelation? We talked in the past about this book by Mary Kay Baxter called The Divine Revelation of Hell, where she walked for 30 days into a different compartment with Yeshua of hell, and she said it was terrifying. She did every night was a new area, and she's like, even to the point that she didn't want to go to sleep at night because the horrors that she saw. But Yeshua walked with her and held her through that time, and then she ended up doing some subsequent books of Divine Revelation Heaven. And I think there was a couple others that went off that same type of theme that I haven't read those. I couldn't get past the Divine Revelation Hell because it was like, whew, that is like life-changing just reading that book. But nevertheless, probably life-changing on Divine Revelation of Heaven. I would like to see how it compares to what Enoch saw. That's a thought. All right, so going on, a heavenly vision, divine revelation from the voice of the watchers. So what was shown to him from a heavenly vision and from the voice of the watchers. Now, keep in mind who the watchers, and I'm kind of leaning to the point that there were watchers that were set, that there are the fallen watchers, and the ones that mingled themselves with human women and birth giants, right? We know about those, but that there were other watchers as well that didn't. Possibly, I don't know if you could really put them in the same category. Just a thought. I'm just random. This is a totally random thought, and I can be corrected, and I can be wrong, and I can be corrected. That's fine. But that's, I think he learned something from those watchers. But what about, would Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, all these other guys that perhaps he learned some things from? I don't think they'd be considered watchers, though. Those are like archangels. So maybe the watchers are, I'm just kind of working it out in my mind. Maybe the watchers are just simply the bad guys. Yeah. Right, Lou. Bad guys. Okay. And holy ones. Now that would throw you in the category of Michael and Raphael and Gabriel and all of those. And so anyway, so he learned a lot from all of them and he recorded them. And he says, I have acquired knowledge and from the tablet of heaven. And from the tablet of heaven. Of course, my mind goes through like what did Moses have? Moses had tablets from heaven. They were remember the ones that he broke? They were sapphire. And and where did he get those? He got them from the Most High, who wrote those 10 words or those 10 commandments, or some say he wrote the Torah on those tablets. And I'm thinking, is it did he actually get some tablets like Moses did? I don't know. It's interesting. And from the tablets of heaven, have I acquired understanding? I mean, you think about that, the tablets of heaven, I immediately go to the 10 commandments. I mean, we know that the first set of tablets were broken, and Moses had to carve out 2 new tablets by which Yah, goes and writes on those. And I'm thinking, we get all sorts of understanding. If you want to go back to Exodus chapter 20 and you look at the 10 commandments, and then you go in from there, what they call the book of the covenant, which goes up through chapter 27, and all of those different details, how we treat one another and how we treat all sorts of different things. I mean, they all relate to the 10 commandments. I mean, there's wisdom in that, right? And righteousness. So, I mean, it's part of the path of righteousness, and we acquire understanding. I mean, it gives us that baseline of knowing what is right and what is wrong, what is righteous and what is what's the right word? Unrighteous. Okay, there's a better word for it. I want to say putrid, but I mean, I guess that would work. But going right along, Hanok then began to speak from a sefer and said, I have been born the 7th in the first week. While judgment and righteousness wait with patience. But after me, in the 2nd week, great wickedness shall arise, and fraud shall spring forth. In that week, the end of the first shall take place, in which man will be saved. Okay, so, what is this first week? And I think I've got to get some more information on this, because when I was reading through this today, I think of it, right now I think about this plan, this 7,000 years. And I think about what happened from the time of Adam that led up all the way to the time of Noah. And then from Noah, that leads up all the way up to the time of Moses, and from the time of Moses up to the time of Yeshua, and so on and so forth, right? And I think, so how is he, what is this time frame of the weeks? And maybe I need to go back and look at the DSS calendar. By the way, the DSS calendar, in terms of when the year begins, I think is a week off, because we have the spring equinox. Spring equinox is about to occur, which is, I think, Friday. We're just a couple days away. Thursday or Friday, some of those 2 days. Someone will look it up. But anyway, which gives us some intercalary days that then the new year begins in 1 week from tomorrow. There you go. But I'm thinking, okay, so going back to this, he's the 7th in the first week. Now, the first week it's got to be some type of epic of time, because there's 10 of these, 10 epics. And so if you have 10, they fall outside of these perfect 1,000 year time periods. And so when I'm looking at this, 7th in the first week, but we know that Noah is 8th. And so, and it seems like he's in a transitional generation, and that he is the one who begins, he comes out of the prior generation and goes into the next generation. So, which makes me think, are we a transitional generation? Because when you look at what happened, what happened in the time of Noah, and Noah was number 8. It says that. Where does it say that over in the book of, is it First? I think it's Second Peter. I think it's Second Peter. Let's jump over there and look at that real quick, because it kind of gives us an idea. And what am I talking, 7th and 8th and all that type of thing from Adam? And we know that, from all the different names that are handed down all the way down to Enoch. There's more than, at his point in time, 7 names, 7 generations from Adam. There's other names that are in there. But I'm talking about, I think this is like the 7th. He's the 7th in terms of the lineage of Melchizedek, the ones that are taking this Melchizedek title, because we know that it then goes forward, and where it goes to Noah having the initial clothing of Adam, is how it's been told, it's been said. And then it goes forward to, from Noah, and then it was supposed to go to Shem, but Ham stole it and ends up getting to, what was that scoundrel? Built the Tower of Babel. My mind wasn't even going there tonight, and it just jumped in my head. Okay. Nimrod. Yeah. And then Esau somehow acquires it, and who knows what happened after that. But anyway, I'm just talking about 7th and then 8th, and that's where I wanted to get over here to into the book of Second Peter. And where does it say about Noah? 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 5, and did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a preacher of righteousness, with 7 others, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly. Now, the correct verbiage on that, the correct wording is Noah, a preacher of righteousness, the 8th, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly. So, but preserved Noah, a preacher of righteousness, the 8th. So Enoch, 7th? I don't know. We know that he's the 8th. Now, he was in a boat with a total of 8 together, but I think that the expression here is Noah the 8th, when he brought the flood upon the world of the ungodly. But it does express to us something else that's very interesting, and that is what Enoch is talking about, that in this 7th, in the first week, while judgment and righteousness wait with patience. But after me, in the 2nd week, so a great wickedness shall arise, and fraud shall spring forth. And in that week, the end of the first shall take place, and in which man will be saved. So it's like there's a transition that he's talking about here, that while judgment, righteousness wait with patience, but after me, in the 2nd week, so right, like maybe at the beginning of the 2nd week, we see a great wickedness shall arise, where it says that there was wickedness throughout the earth, because of all the mixture and everything that was going on. And then there was Noah, the preacher of righteousness, the one who was righteous. And in that week, and it's a great wickedness shall rise, and fraud shall spring forth. In that week, the end of the first shall take place. And so that's the end of the first epoch of time shall take place, and in which man shall be saved. And so how is mankind saved out of that? Is we see, and I like to see what that Hebrew word was that was being used. Is that the word Adam, and in which Adam will be saved, or mankind would be saved? But so that would be Noah and his family. But when it is completed, iniquity shall grow up, and he shall execute the decree upon sinners afterwards in the 3rd week. So in other words, it's like there's a restart, and then there's going to be another decree upon the sinners, because the depravity of man, the flesh, the expression of man connecting and inspired by the by Hasatan to do evil and continually is all over the place. And afterwards, in the third week, during its completion, a man of the plant of righteous, a judgment shall be selected, and after him the plant of righteousness shall come forth. Subsequently, in the fourth week, during its completion, the visions of the holy and righteous shall be seen. The order of generation after generation, and a habitation shall be made for them. So it makes me think now. He's talking about, and what are these epochs of time? I wish I could understand. I'm going to look this up, maybe if there's a way to figure this out. But in these epochs of time, as we get into the third week, it's during its completion, a man of the plant of righteous judgment shall be selected, and after him the plant of righteousness shall come forever. And it makes me think about Shem, and then that leads to Abraham, who was righteous because of what he did. And after him the plan of righteousness shall come forever, because it's from Abraham that we see that Yah is specifically, he's been following the family, but now the generations of mankind, but he's picking a bloodline that it falls upon Abraham, who is this man of faith and was considered righteous because of what he did. And it shall come forever. And so it's established now. Once again, so Noah to Shem, and then it skips. It kind of skips some things, because like Noah's dad wasn't a good guy. And even, except to the point that he did make sure that Abraham was spared from Nimrod and protected. And then Abraham, goes in and smashes all the idols and stuff. But he also goes, according to Jasher, he goes and he gets his dad and says, "Okay, it's time to get out of town, Dad." And then they move out, and they end up in Ur of the Chaldees. But nevertheless, even in that, and where we have Eber in there, and all these different names, and you think, okay, we see a lineage, but there's something that happens with Abraham because of things maybe that took place in his life, we're told that he smashed all these other idols. He demonstrates that he's holding on to the faith that was handed down from Noah to Shem and forward, and seeing the rise of iniquity in the land. And so a man of the plant of righteous judgment shall be selected, and after him the plant of righteousness shall come forever. And this is in the third week. Subsequently, in the fourth week, during its completion, the visions of the holy and the righteous shall be seen. The order of generation after generation, and a habitation shall be made for them. So now I'm thinking, now we're talking about Abraham. He has this vision of the stars of the heaven and the sands of the seas. That so shall your descendants be, that every family in the earth will come from Abraham's loins. And yet, specifically, there's a family that comes forward from Isaac, that goes forward to Jacob, and then Jacob's 12 sons, and then we know they go into Egypt, and out of Egypt they are a huge family, and it says the order of generation after generation, and a habitation shall be made for them, because now we're looking at these descendants that are coming out of Egypt. Why? Because a habitation shall be made for them. So that's why I'm thinking that was maybe the fourth week. I could be wrong. It could be off, but it seems, some of these things are kind of cryptic, and maybe they can have different interpretations. So here we have, then in the fifth week, during its completion, the house of glory and of dominion shall be erected forever. So the house of glory and of dominion shall be erected forever. So, okay, so in the generation that came out of Egypt, they built the tabernacle. Is that the house of glory? Or, we see the tabernacle, they come into the land, And that tabernacle is also raised up at Shiloh. And then ultimately it's taken to Jerusalem. And then ultimately a temple is built. But the tabernacle was replaced by the first temple, which was destroyed. And then ultimately second temple, which was destroyed. But it says the house of glory and of dominion shall be erected forever. And that's where it makes me think that it's more than a structure on the earth, because we are the living stones. We together are the house of glory and of dominion erected forever. So, okay. It's just some thoughts on this. Then verse 10, we're in verse 10 of chapter 92. After that, in the 6th week, all those who are in it shall be darkened. The hearts of all of them shall be forgetful of wisdom, and in it shall a man, and this is a capital M, arise and come forth. Would this be, because it says it's a capital M man, I'm thinking that's Yeshua. So there's something that happens. The darkness comes in. You get the rule, the usurpation of the party of the Pharisees and the party of the Sadducees, taking away the rightful high priesthood and usurping that power. And it's a corrupt priesthood then. Pastor Sandi did a great message on that in the past. And go back and check our archives at the Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel. But yeah, it's a good place to stop. We're going to pick up on verse 11 next week. We got to wait till then. We're out of time. Boy, this hour went by so fast, but I hope you got something. I hope it just challenged your thinking, and hope it inspires you. So anyway, hey, it's been a great time, and thank you for joining me here in Walking in Spirit and Truth. And until next time, this is John Craig. Shalom.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again, or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all the other live Lamb show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network. We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm Sandi Craig, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.